Okay, let me see if that worked. And hopefully the sound's good. Come on, you better work, stream, or I swear to God. There we go. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, cool. Cool. It's working. All right. Let me get this started because I have been missing for the longest because, I just had too much shit to do. I'm working like 7 days a week, so I have to make time for this. And then all my free time, everybody wants to do everything all of a sudden. So I've been out, but I've been following what's going on. So this is going to be funny. Oh my god. I don't know which one to do first. Maybe the school fights. Maybe the school fights and the MAGA rapper. I don't know if anyone saw what happened with the MAGA rapper who got his wake up call because he had a slight deviation from the approved take on the right. And so they yeeted him. Or what else? Oh, right, Multiversus. That was funny. Let me get that real quick. Pull that up. The wait while pull that up real quick. There we go. Oh, that was funny. Okay. Just give that a second. Pull this up. Hang on, I'm just looking for something. I know I'm being slow and sloppy. I had time. Oh, where's the fucking tweet? God. I'm trying to find that. There it is. There we go. All right. So I guess I'll do that one first. Now, this is fucking stupid because we have, of course, you have, the fucking ignorance on the right latching onto this, but of course, you also have the white liberals amplifying certain goofies' voices because that's how they do. They want to make you look fucking stupid. So let me. Oh, God, I keep closing it. Okay, I have to get back into. I have to get back into my rhythm. So I don't know how many of y'all saw this, but I thought this was absolutely retarded because this was based off. I know people are claiming it was based off that one tweet from that one dude who was complaining who was complaining. And I saw I saw this. Who is that dude? We're gonna go into him in a minute. Now, oh my god, what do I get? Chad something. There we go, Chad O. Jackson, and I'm gonna get to him in a minute because I saw him comment on this, and he tried to make this about like black people are weak and sensitive because they removed Velma's cop ability in Multiversus. And his evidence of this is black people being fragile is one goofy nigga on Twitter with like 4 likes. And I'm like, well, who removed it? Because I don't think it was black people working there who okayed this. Because I've worked in games, and let me tell you, I guarantee you it was some white liberals. Because I've worked in games, and that's all it is. It's filled with racist white liberals. I won't go into it, but I am definitely blacklisted from a couple studios for probably calling out some racist white liberals. But that's fine because I'm not going back to games anyway. Mm. But that was fucking incredible. The fact that they're gonna pull out one goofy from Twitter with like no followers and be like, it's a them problem. No one complained about this. Nobody. This was just white liberals virtue signaling. Because some people made a joke about them doing that to LeBron that I thought was fucking funny. But like I said, does any of this matter? Does this actually do anything or change anything? No. But of course, you got the culture warriors latching onto it on both sides. It's fucking annoying. Although I've more so just seen the right complaining about this. And just amplifying, like I said, the one goofy from Twitter. I don't know if his tweet is in here. No, his tweet's not in here. But an upcoming Multiversus patch will change Velma's controversial snooping passive ability, which will now summon the mystery machine rather than the police car. Their crossover fighting game that includes characters from a wide variety. Okay, we know what it is. But Velma, the best and strongest fighter in Multiversus, that's debatable. Now the most divisive aspect of the character has been changed. Nobody complained about this. Like I said, one goofy. And like I said, again, it's white liberals complaining about this. But like I said, you had the tap dancers. You had the tap dancers calling niggas fragile because of this. Which is just absolutely crazy to me. Okay, the rest of this is just saying what everybody knows what Multiversus is. God, this is just a waste of space. This is somebody just trying to get paid for the day. I'm gonna take a second to find the tweet. Let me find it real quick. Oh my god. Man, I can't find the. Okay, here. This will be funny. Wait, switch it back. Okay. I'm going to start in the middle because for some reason, every article to fill their word quota just has to keep explaining what the fuck Multiversus is, and everybody knows what it is. Okay, one of the strangest aspects of Velma's character in Multiversus was her ability to summon the fuzz after solving a mystery, which would imply collecting clues around the arena. A police car would roll up on Velma's victim, throw him in the back seat, and then drive off the stage, which is fucking funny. Is it a funny idea and concept? Of course it is. It's funny in practice to watch a cop car roll up and start wreaking havoc. In the year 2022, in a game with black characters. There we go. They pulled it's 2022, people. Okay, white liberals, including real world people like LeBron James, not so much. I remember when somebody did that and I thought that shit was funny. But, white liberals got to look like they care without actually doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, they'll do anything. They'll do, what was it? Again, fuck. I'm trying to remember the quote. It was like, they'll do anything to stop whatever cause as long as it doesn't involve practical action. Okay. Let me see. In America, police distrust is at an all-time high. Blah blah. With criminal actions, nobody cares. We know. It's not clear to Americans, although it's been long and obvious, marginalized and oppressed folks in this country. The police are not the good guys as they are depicted in shows. We know. But nobody's thinking that in a game. It's not upsetting the crap out of people. Let me see. Oops. Why does that go on? So with that slow and steady cultural shift in mind, some Multiversus players winced at having the choice call the cops. A small group of fans even started an online petition. I think it was like 35 people or something that signed that. Last I checked. I'd have to check it again. But even if it was like 100, who the fuck cares? To remove the cops from Velma's ability and replace it with the mystery machine, and that's exactly what Player First Games did. Because we all know this shit was pointless. Okay. In Thursday's patch, the notes included this bit about the passive ability, and yeah, we know this change may seem small, but it takes away some gloom. Who was bitching about it? Like I said, what, 35 people on the internet? It was 35 goofies on the internet. As the petition calls out, the police aren't necessary in Multiversus to gameplay or even the in-game spectacle. I can't say that word. Of a character calling in a whole ass car to do their bidding. Yeah, because that's funny. So it's nice to see Player First Games work to improve that issue that inadvertently sends the wrong message to players and makes a group of fans uncomfortable. 35 people? Or are they doing that like that one thing where it was like 35 people complained? When extrapolated, that means 35 billion people are offended or something. I can't remember the Family Guy joke. I'd have to look it up. But like I said, who the fuck? All they have to do is take one goofy and extrapolate that, and that's what fucking sucks. All right, let me switch. What? Oh shit! What was the other one? Where? I am like hella unorganized today. No, not this one. Okay, I'll do this one. This one is fucking crazy. Switch tabs. Okay, so my friend sends me this. I watched through this, and I'm just like, of course. Now, I never got around to watching Uncle Tom documentary, but I saw this interview about Uncle Tom too, and I was just like, okay, on Timcast. I'm like, okay, what is this what is this about? And then it's like, new documentary explores Black conservatives pushing back on liberals and the woke left. Now, when I say Black conservatives, that's where I start going, are we talking about Black conservatives or Black conservatives? Because there's a big difference. Now, I know the right doesn't like to distinguish them because basically the only Black conservatives they see are the conservatives. Anyone else doesn't exist. Because the way they see it is like this. Either you're the Black conservative, which means you're just a black face that speaks on white issues and basically demeans Black people, or they call you a lefty. That's essentially how that works with the right. Because every fucking time, and I have been through this personally, that's what they will do. Because as soon as you start to just push back a little bit on the right, as a black person on the right, you can be as conservative as possible. As soon as you just start to push back a little bit on that narrative, they turn on you immediately, and they'll accuse you of being some kind of woke lefty again. So it's like, that's how they see it. Conservatives are black conservatives, and then anybody else is a lefty, which is dumb, because then they go, I don't get why they don't vote for us. And it's like, all right, retard.
Well, let's talk about your guys' movie, Uncle Tom 2. Yeah. What's it about? What's going on? I saw the first one, and I learned a lot about Herman Cain, and he was badass. That was awesome.
Yeah. So, Uncle Tom 1, we'll call it Uncle Tom 1, was really turned out to be kind of a conservatism 101. I started the film just out of a curiosity of why Black America, when it came to conservative Black America, was treated in such a way. And I think around 2015, 2016, during that cultural climate, the hypocrisy was very real for me.
Speaking in very vague terms that I can't understand, what does he mean how Black conservatives are treated? Because like I said, I don't know when it comes to the right. Usually what they mean by Black conservatives is Black conservatives, the mouthpieces for white people. And then when other Black people are look at them sideways and go, fuck this dude, they'll be like, what, you're not, you like, you, they'll be like, they'll do that shield where they'll go like, you're just afraid of free thinking Blacks. And I was like, yeah, the Black people that I've seen the right promote, none of them are free thinking. They all say the exact same things. It's kind of weird how they say that, how they're just like, you're afraid of a free thinker. And every single one they promote, it is the same lines, the same talking points every single time. And I'm like, I actually go around and talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of intellectual diversity in Black conservatism, but you don't see it in the mainstream right. You just see one message. You watch Uncle Tom 1, it was the normal talking points. I mean, I figured. I didn't get a chance to seeing it. I got sent the interview, and it was just reviewing this interview. And I saw this, and I was like, oh, dear Lord. Now, it's funny, because we have both people here who worked on it. And it's funny, because I'm like, this is what happens when you're on any of these shows on the right. Notice that they always have the Black face speak worse of Black people than the white face. They do that on purpose. That's not an accident. And it's amazing that you hear this shit coming from their mouths. But it's like, yeah, because they're going to use that as the shield. But a Black person said it. Okay. And that's what they like to do. Like, I know the right's bad with optics, but they're not that bad. They understand that part, right?
2012, Herman Cain, was running for president, and I supported Herman Cain. I thought he was great. And 2 years prior to that, a couple of years prior to that, if you didn't support Barack Obama, you were a racist. And so, literally, one political cycle later,
I don't remember anyone saying that in 2008.
A Black man from the South, from Atlanta, Georgia, runs for president. And he was, a coon and Uncle Tom, all the things. The media completely destroyed him. And that shocked me.
Well, what did he say? I don't hear, I would like some context in which they called him that. I'm not accusing of anything. I don't know what he said. I'm just saying I would like to hear some context. That kind of matters. But like I said, I'm not saying that that's what happened, because I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to. I'll go on anybody who wants to talk to me. There's only like a handful of people online that'd be like, I just have no interest in talking to. Either because, like I said, they're grifters, or their personality is just so disingenuous. I know I'm just going to get irritated and check out. But the vast, vast, vast majority of people, I'd have no problem.
because at the time I'd never seen the media talk about a black man that way, because by that time we were already on eggshells.
You've never seen the media okay. I'm sorry. They never outwardly said the word. That's what he means. Yeah, the media has never depicted or referred to black people that way. Maj Toure was on with Dave Smith. I saw that. I noticed they stayed closer to the safe topics when Maj was there. I can't help but notice that, because there was other things going on around that time with Maj that could have been talked about, or with other people that could have been talked about. But I noticed they're saying around the safer subjects with him. And that was unfortunate. I wanted to see the smoke. Not as in, not like actually him and Tim just going at it. It was more so the chat.
So that kind of started the wanting to make the film. And then as I started interviewing black conservatives, it kind of just opened up this entire world to me. And I realized there was a lot of diversity. There was a lot of different walks of life within the black conservative movement. And on that journey, I met Chad Jackson, who was one of the people I interviewed for the film.
And when I looked up Chad Jackson, because I was like, all right, I need to know who this is, because this dude says some goofy stuff later. And I didn't finish this whole interview because I was like, I'm going to record it live. As soon as I go to his Twitter, it's like full blown Sambo nonsense. Like they're saying he says some white supremacist shit. And I can go over to his Twitter in a second and show you, because I was like, holy shit. This dude is making fucking Candace look tame sometimes. Some of the shit he's saying, I'm like, okay.
And he actually became the main subject of the first film. And during that time, we became pretty close friends. And when the film released and it was, we had some success and it was very well received, and we were riding the wave of that, I realized that there was more work to be done. There was more story to tell. And so I asked Chad to come on board with me. And
so give us a synopsis on the first one, and then tell us about
the first one. I would say was Conservatism 101. We called it an oral history of the American Black Conservative. It was basically just establishing the fact that not all black people are far left Democrats, that not all black people hate America, that not all black people view themselves as victims in America.
No shit. But the people you display as that, you're using the exceptional Negro archetype. If anybody, if you know what I'm talking about by the exceptional Negro archetype. And second of all, is being a victim inherently bad? Because people act like this was all a long time ago. And I'm like, dude, we're not even that far out. I was like, my dad grew up in Jim Crow South. What the fuck? And these people are like, no, none of that, all of that's gone, and nothing. There is no lasting effects from it. That's what they try.
And
I kind of think that I would imagine the stereotype, I guess, of the black community in the church is that they're more conservative outright, but for some reason keep voting with Democrats.
they are. And
For some reason. Now, I've seen Tim ask this question for fucking years. If he really wanted to answer that question, he could have asked a ton of fucking people. He just had Maj on. He could have asked Maj, right? I hate this playing dumb, right? If he really cared about why black people don't vote fucking Republican, he could have gone and asked some black leaders, right? That are on the right that don't like Republicans. He could have just went and asked them, because it's not fucking hard. It's not hard. Anyone can see, hey, Republicans come off. The Republican Party is extremely anti-black. You can't even make an offer without getting backlash from the white ignorance. Like I said, Trump made an offer and he lost white voters for it. And the right was getting mad. I saw them. When it came to the Platinum Plan, I saw them going, why does it have to be them? Why can't it be all Americans? Like, because it's always all Americans. Whenever it's black people, it's all Americans, right? Because when they did his when Trump did his anti-Semitism hate speech thing on college campuses, none of them complained. And I'm like, gee, maybe that might be why. Maybe it's because you're absolutely toxic towards us. Now, the Democrats are just as bad, if not worse. The thing is, though, they understand messaging, and they'll keep that shit. They'll say the same things. They'll just say it behind closed doors. They won't say it to your face. Unless you piss them off enough, then they will. If you piss them off enough, they'll take the mask off. I've done that. And the white liberal and the white conservative will sound exactly the same. But it's like, this is not hard to understand. This is not some reason. This isn't like some reason. But like I said, he doesn't care. He doesn't care why that's the case. Because otherwise, he would have taken 5 fucking seconds to look it up or ask some people.
And I think part two gets more into the historical lineage of what happened to Black America. And during the process, we take it all the way back to Marx. When our country was on fire a couple of years ago during the BLM chaos.
I am so sick of hearing our country was on fire or people burned down the country. That is not what happened. I'm so sick of hearing that.
There was an interview that Patrisse Cullors, slipped up and told the world that she was a trained Marxist. And so people sort of like, well, what is that?
Yeah, and Black people do not like BLM, the organization. For some reason, white people keep thinking Black people like the BLM organization. No, we don't. We haven't. Everybody knows it's a fucking grift. Everyone knows she's been pocketing the money or giving it to the alphabet. Right? It's just for some reason, for some reason, white conservatives think we're too dumb that we haven't figured that out a long fucking time ago, and that most of their money is coming from white-owned corporations. Or you have white liberals that think more or less the same thing, just from a slightly different perspective. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? They're listening to BLM. No, we're not.
That mean? And what is this worldview that's got my country on fire? So Uncle Tom 2 goes to Karl Marx, explains who he was, explains what he believed and his ideology and how it made its way into America and how America had to be.
He's going back to the niggas are stupid argument that white conservatives love, right? They were brainwashed by Marxists. Like I said, again, it's the niggas are stupid, right? You notice how when they always go, but for some reason they keep voting Democrat, right? And they'll say they're brainwashed and on a Democratic plantation. And it's like, yes, the niggas are stupid argument. Have you ever tried, again, asking people? But these people won't do that. Yeah, I know. BLM was called out. They were stealing money. They were trying to, quote unquote, raise money for actual victims of police brutality. And they were taking the money. And most of the money they did give to charity went to alphabet charities. That's the fucking crazy part. And it's like, yeah, Black people figured that out a long, long time ago. Their money was coming from rich, white-owned corporations. A lot of them were donating. And a lot of times it was like white liberals. So it's just like I said, because the right thinks we're stupid. I mean, the left thinks you're stupid too. It's just like I said, the right's more open about how stupid they think you are.
Transform slowly, gradually, because of our history, because of our individual spirit. Marxism didn't really work in America. It worked in the East. It spread like fire in the East, but in the West, Marxism was harder to sell.
Well, it's been gaining a foothold across the board in a variety of fashions.
And for America, it's taken a little over 100 years to get where we are. And as we zoom into Marxism, you find that Black America was the low-hanging fruit for that ideology to take hold. And to
how and why, though? That's the good question. How and why? And two, no, it didn't. Right? Because we'll talk about reparations, and the right will say, like, they'll either say that socialism or that, which is so dumb, because I was like, reparations is like purely capitalistic. It's literally paying for labor. But they'll say, yeah, they'll say things like, oh, that's socialism and that's cultural Marxism, or they'll say it's, you know, racialized Marxism and stuff like that. And they'll do this type of shit. Right? And then I have to ask, well, how are they the low-hanging fruit? Was it because of poverty? Well, how did that happen? How did the poverty happen? Right? Let's start asking those questions. Like, where did the poverty happen? How did it happen? Historically, what happened to cause that? Something tells me we're not going to go into that. And the only other angle I'm going to say, like I said, that they say Black people were the low-hanging fruit is they're going to say that niggas were stupid. Because that's always what the right tends to go to. It's like they know they're toxic and Black people don't like them because of their rhetoric. It's just it's because they don't want you there. But they also have a drive to, they don't want you voting Democrat, but they don't want you voting for them either. They just want you not voting.
To use Black America as its tool for destruction in our country.
Yeah. So from our
niggas are stupid. Okay.
Perspective, and Justin's 100% right. For me, what Uncle Tom 2 does is it showcases this era of Black prosperity that we're not traditionally told about in the mainstream media.
Why and what happened to the Black wealth and how was it destroyed? I would really hope that they actually go over that, because that's actually historically extremely important. But something tells me they're going to spin it. They're going to spin it into some completely different direction.
And when I say mainstream media, I'm talking about organizations like NPR, which is constantly putting out, stories of Black America as they see it. And it's constantly depicting Black America as being oppressed, as being under the thumb of the white man, as being hated by this country.
Okay, so Black people in the 1900s, when they were building wealth, was not under the thumb of white people. Do you want to tell me what happened to the Black Wall Streets that got destroyed and who destroyed them? Because last I checked, niggas didn't destroy them. Last time I checked, just take Tulsa, it was destroyed twice. Last time I checked, you had a bunch of angry white people who destroyed it and got away with it. And then second time they destroyed it in the 1970s, that was Nixon over quote unquote urban development and ran a freeway through it. Who was in control of destroying that Black wealth? That kind of sounds like, again, you're under the thumb of a white controlled government in the case with Nixon. So then what happened? I'd love to see what this person thinks. What happened to the Black wealth? But something tells me, judging by his Twitter history, he's gonna go the white supremacist route.
But what we found when we dug in, to the archives, is that Black America was thriving in the 1900s, from the early 19 to the mid 1900s, not in spite of the white South, but in some cases with the help of the white South. And so what we found is that race relations between white and Black in the South were actually far more harmonious than kind of oppressive.
I'm done. Hold up. Did this nigga just say this? That sounds like some full-blown Sambo white supremacist talk. Did he just say that shit? Race relations in the early to mid 1900s in the South were not only good, but harmonious. bruh, I can't even. Hold up. I got to hear that again. Please tell me I heard that wrong. Please tell me I heard that wrong. There's no fucking way I heard that right.
South, but in some cases with the help of the white South. And so what we found is that race relations between white and black in the South were actually far more harmonious than kind of oppressive. Like
they were more harmonious than oppressive in the South. Yes. I'm just saying, oh man. Like I said, as somebody whose dad came from the Jim Crow South, that wasn't true. I'm not trying to say that, that's just, I know that's just anecdotal, but I don't know what kind of fucking history you're reading. This is like the people who say the North was free, because historically that's not true. They would say the North is where, the free blacks were, and that wasn't true. The North was not free. And in a lot of cases, people from the North went back to the South to be slaves, or if they were already in the North, they went back to the slaves because you couldn't eat. Because you lived in a basement, nobody would hire you, you couldn't work, you couldn't get money, you couldn't eat. So there were many that went back because they're like, I might be getting worked to death, but they got to feed me. So it's either starve to death or work and get food. That's what the right will define as free. Apparently. Yeah, it's culture. They'll say it's culture. Yeah, exactly. I know he will because I've seen him say that. He has said that multiple times in another video and on Twitter. He keeps saying, it's culture. One video, he's like, well, look at the music videos that they're promoting and what their culture promotes. And I'm like, those are made by white people for white kids. And I'm like, now I know if you've completely removed yourself from black culture and became a Sambo, of course, yeah, that's what you're going to look at and say, that's who they are. And I think anyone who spent time there is like, what the fuck is this? But that's a whole thing on like things like the music industry. That's way different.
Constantly told about, and so we're able to show these beautiful photos and just this footage of things that are not just frankly talked about in the mainstream media, and to the extent that they do talk about it, it's always kind of tainted with this kind of oppressive message that is meant to constantly remind black people that you are oppressed. This country hates you. And because this country hates you, you need to vote this way. You need to.
No. See, that's what the white liberal does. The white liberal does that. But as far as it held you back and it hates you, yes. Because even to this day, what political party does anything for black people? Which? In what way? Because guess what? As far as to this country, despite everything we have done and built here, they see us as disposable. They don't need us, right? Because we don't have anything. We have, like what? We have no wealth, right? Right now. I think it's like, how much? I think it's like it might be less than 2% of wealth is controlled by black people. So of course, yeah, the systems here, they don't give a shit about you. You're going to get pushed into a corner, right? And then how did we get there? Over, like I said, hundreds of years of building and then getting destroyed, and then building and then getting destroyed, and then building back up and then getting destroyed. Whether it's, urban development, a war on drugs, et cetera, stuff like that. Right? They'll talk about the breakdown of the family. Well, how did that happen? And then they'll try to do that. It's culture. They'll bring up stuff like issues with gangs, and you got to ask, well, where did the gangs come from? What is their history? How did they form? Why did they form? And they don't want to talk about that because a lot of that goes back to the 1960s and issues with self-policing, because there were police coming into these neighborhoods and murdering people. And so neighborhood watches had to form, and then, things like I said, things progressed from there. Like I said, all this stuff is linked together and adds up. None of this is in a vacuum. They try to convince you this was in a vacuum and it's an isolated thing. It's not. It's intended. All of this is intended.
Think this way. You need to, in a sense, be entitled. And so
we're entitled. So as we build our wealth and it consistently gets destroyed over and over and over again, and we complain about it, we're entitled. Because that's basically been this whole country's history. We do the work, we get screwed on the deal, and then when we go, what the fuck? They go, you're so entitled. Right? It's like I said, when you hear about reparations, they talk about how it's a socialistic handout, right? You just want welfare. Who cares? You're going to be broke again. Right? They stole labor. And then when you say, yo, what the fuck? You stole labor. They go, you're entitled. You got to love it. That's this country, right? Our shit gets destroyed. And then when we say, what the fuck? Stop it. You owe us for that. You're entitled. Okay.
It's offering a different perspective, if you will. The film also shows how, to the extent that you have these so-called black organizations like the NAACP, like Black Lives Matter, like these organizations that are...
The NAACP and Black Lives Matter are not quote-unquote black organizations. As we've seen, Black Lives Matter has been giving money to the alphabet. They haven't done shit for black people. And the NAACP, what the fuck have they been doing? They're giving out fucking... They're having their... Did you see they're giving out scholarships to fucking Hispanics now? And them going on that... what was that one video with police? With the white woman, and they're going and speaking on behalf of that, and then other things when it's actual black people being brutalized and police are quiet. What is the NAACP doesn't do shit. They're there as a front.
All about blackness, asserting blackness. When you lift up the veil, when you pull back the curtain, what you find behind these so-called black organizations are white Marxists.
Yep.
And so...
Oh no! So what you've realized is that what you figured out is what black people realized like fucking forever ago. That there are no actual there's no real pro-black power structure anywhere in this country, because everything is controlled. Virtually everything controlled in this country is controlled by white people. So it sounds like you have a problem with white people, but for some reason we always catch the blame for it, right? It's like when you have those white teachers who say some stupid, they'll say some dumb shit. They'll say some dumb shit, or they'll try splitting up the class by race or something and everything like that. Or, they'll do something. It'll be like some white person doing it. And then for some reason, whenever white conservatives jump on the story, they're always mad at black people for some reason. And it's we're not the ones doing that. Why are you mad at us?
It's important to showcase that, because this whole, this whole pejorative of Uncle Tom, it's meant to silence individuals like Herman Cain, like Larry Elder, like Thomas Sowell. Because if you listen to Thomas Sowell, if you listen to Larry Elder, if you listen to Alan West, you'll find that these guys actually know what the heck they're talking about.
No, they don't. Well, Thomas Sowell is an economist. And yet he keeps going off about history. Now, in terms of economics, I found Sowell's pretty good. I don't have a problem with him. Other stuff, on some stuff on culture, hit and miss. Larry Elder, yeah, I think he gets I wouldn't say Uncle Tom. I would say Sambo. He's literally was arguing about giving with fucking Candace about trying to make an argument that slave owners should receive reparations. The slave owners should have received reparations. They did. He left that historical fact out, that the white slave owners did get reparations. It's called the Emancipation Compensation Act of 1862. You can go look it up. But also people like Larry Elder, who doesn't know his shit, who calls himself a libertarian and always sides with the police. What kind of libertarian always sides with the police? Did anyone, I don't know if anyone even fucking is familiar with him whenever it comes to any sort of police brutality, but he's always just obey the law, obey the law, obey the law, obey the law. And I'm like, what kind of fucking libertarian are you? He is a fucking joke. The third dude I'm not familiar with. I have to look up.
And to the extent that people apply what it is they're saying, they will be benefited not only as black folks, but as people in general. And so you don't want such a man to have a kind of effect on the masses of people, let alone black people. And so
No, because his effect, he's literally doing what the white liberal does. His purpose is the same as the white liberal blacks who do the bidding of white liberals. To try to, like I said, here, let me, and this fool is a perfect example of this, and it's sad, but people like if anyone's read Claude Anderson, he goes over this, and I'll go over this right now because it's actually really relevant to this, to what he's saying, because he goes over black conservatism. Now, I don't like his framing in this, to be honest. What he's saying is completely on point. What Claude Anderson says right here is completely on point, but I'm not a fan of the framing because I wouldn't call it black conservatism. I would just call it like black republicanism, because that tends, they're always affiliated with the Republican Party. But essentially, I'm just gonna read straight from the book. So, black conservatism is as old as black enslavement, but 3 decades of popular white conservatism, coupled with the social and economic devastation of black America, has attracted an increasing number of blacks to the conservative political movement. Black conservatives represent a potential danger to their race because of their alignment with white conservatives who have always been anti-black. When black-white conservative alignments occur, black conservatives become a liability to blacks and an asset to whites. Does this sound like anybody that we've ever gone over on this channel? By mouthing the social and economic views of white conservatives, black conservatives convert confusion of their personal racial identity to confusion in the minds of black people about the real issue facing them. Black conservatives operate under the misleading colors. As an old farmer said, they run with the hounds while pretending friendship and brotherhood with the rabbits. The confusion caused by their schizophrenic behavior provides public cover for anti-black attitudes and activities, makes them appear as nothing more than white races in black menstrual makeup. Yes. Becoming a conservative has historically provided personal rewards to individual blacks with few downsides because of the powerlessness of the black community to hold accountable those members who turn against it. Blacks found it was not difficult to establish beneficial relations with whites once they accepted a subordinate position and committed themselves to placing the welfare of the white class first. Does that sound familiar to doesn't that just describe basically every prominent black conservative that is promoted in mainstream media? Like I said, I don't like the framing of calling them black conservatives because they're not. I refer to them closer to white Republicans, or like I said, the conservatives. I like some level of differentiation there because I don't think this applies to all black conservatives, because there are tons of black conservatives who are very pro-black. And they all fucking hate Republicans. That's why I said I think it's more accurate. But like I said, it's the exceptional Negro. You say what this, you take the black face to speak on behalf of white people, white people's issues, and attack black people. And what happens? They're always showered with praise. They get radio shows. They get money. They get riches. So, of course, you're going to have a lot of them that will do this. I understand that. And white liberals do this too. They completely do this too. Anyway. So, becoming a conservative has historically provided personal rewards to individual blacks with few downsides. Because of the powerlessness of the black community to hold accountable the members who turn against it, blacks found it was not difficult to establish beneficial relations with whites once they accepted a subordinate position and committed themselves to placing the welfare of the white class first. I wanted to reread that because that's important. All right. Once Once that was agreed upon, tactically or otherwise, blacks then were entitled to various forms of paternalistic protection. Doesn't that sound familiar? Where anytime you'll go after any sort of, like, you attack a Candace or you attack a Jason Whitlock, what happens? What do the white conservatives all come? You're just scared of a free-thinking black, right? They all do that. They're like, you're just afraid of a free thinker. That's the paternalistic protection. Christian charity and meritorious recognition, right? They'll always say it was all meritocracy, and you just got to do what I do. White conservatives then conferred special status and recognition to conservative blacks as exceptional or acceptable, right? They always post them up and go, why can't you be more like them? Go into any pro-black conservatives comments and look at the white conservatives that'll come out and be like, why can't you be more like a Tatum? Or why can't you be more based like Candace? You'll always hear that. Accordingly, black conservatives who place their personal advancement above the welfare of their race often gain significant personal and financial benefits, recognition, and access to power. In political and social situations, they are anointed by whites as leaders and touted as role models. Again, does that not sound familiar? In political and social situations, a black conservative is closely akin to Sambo and Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin. In a historical context, a Sambo was a black America's worst nightmare. The stereotypical Sambo was more than a minstrel man, a buffoon, and a plantation darky. Sambo represented the extraordinary success of social control in which the ultimate goal of slavery, conditioning process that transplanted a white mindset into a black personality. And don't get me wrong, in this, he calls it black conservatism. Black liberals, they do the exact same thing. They are no different. And that's exactly who people like this is. People like Candace are, people like Jason Whitlock, people like Jesse Lee Peterson, Larry Elder, all the same thing. They all say the same thing. They're all reacted to the same way. And when we go over the school fights, I'm going to show you. I don't know how many people saw that school fight where they were all taking the little white kid side with no context, of course, to the story of the fight. But there was a MAGA rapper, quote unquote MAGA rapper, who basically took the side of both. It wasn't even siding with the black kid. He said both kids should be suspended for fighting because it looks like, the kid asked for a fight because of what he said. So they should both be suspended. And all his audience turned on him and started calling him racial slurs. You have people calling him a monkey. People say, what a black take. And I'm going to dig it up. Because holy shit, dude. He got his wake-up call, I hope. There's two responses to that. Either you get the wake-up call, you answer it, and figure your shit out, or you ignore it, and then you're going to get a second one, and it could be worse. Unfortunately, some people only get one, and it ends in death. God forbid. I hope that never happens to anybody, but it does happen.
Want to, in a sense, demonize them and ostracize them and make them look as a kind of parasite amongst the masses of black people. So you're going to call them as pejorative, Uncle Tom, coon, bootlicker, sellout, so on and so forth, because you want to silence them. So
No, it's not. No, black people don't have the power to silence these people. Black people don't own the networks that host your Larry Elders and your Jesse Lee Petersons. They can't silence them. They don't own this. Most of these platforms like YouTube and stuff are owned by white liberals. And if black people had the power, yeah, they should get out of the way because they're a problem. They represent a problem. I'm not saying censor and repress or whatever, but yeah, they should be boycotted and they should be ignored. Listen, there's so many places you can go to refute their arguments. But as far as in the black community, yeah, I do think people like them should be shunned because they've been nothing but toxic, vitriolic, and a liability. Especially people like Larry Elder and Candace Owens, who will actually go to Congress to make these asinine, stupid arguments against things like reparations, yeah, they are a danger to Black communities and should be ostracized. But like I said, we don't have the power to do that because all the tech platforms are owned by white people.
We demonstrate that to the extent that these so-called Black liberal activists are using these pejoratives, they themselves are having their puppet strings pulled by who? White Marxists.
That's hilarious coming from a dude who has his puppet strings being pulled by white conservatives. Like I said, it's both sides. The white liberal and the white conservative, they both love their black pawns. They are no different.
And so at the end of the day, I don't care whether ideology is coming from a white person or a Black person. I don't care because race isn't that important to me. But to the extent that I can expose that the people behind these so-called Black, pro-Black individuals are actually white Marxists, once we can get that out of the way, then we can have a conversation about what actually matters.
Quote unquote pro-Black individuals are controlled by white Marxists. Now, there are definitely those who take the label pro-Black and are completely white controlled. That is true. But this is the kind of guy who's referring to people as pro-Black, as controlled by whites. But he's not, even though he fits to a T the pawn of the white conservatives, Black Shield, their pawn. And what I read you, that book is from 1996. What I read just now about the Black conservative, that comes from this. From Claude Anderson. This is from 1996. Shit ain't changed. Shit is still the same.
And what actually matters is ideology. And what kind of manifestations does ideology have on the way in which people are actually living and whether or not people are prospering or whether they're constantly failing? Baltimore is an example of how we're failing under Marxism. Detroit is an example of how we're actually failing under Marxism. Southside of Chicago, all of these organizations cities are examples of how we're failing under our Marxism. We went your way. We applied your policies. We applied what it is you're pushing, what it is you're selling. And Black people are not being benefited by it.
Yeah, from white people. But conservatives have no counter offer. Do you understand this? One, things like defund the police as far as take police off the streets and get rid of them. No Black people asked for that, okay? That was white liberals because defund the police meant something different. It originally meant that taking resources from the police so they don't have to handle things they are not trained to handle. Things like mental health calls, right? It was going to go send a mental health person with an officer to a mental health call. This whole sending mental health professional to a shootout, the right made that up completely. Nobody ever fucking said that. The right just made that up out of nowhere because the police are not fun. They don't have training to deal with mental health issues. And as far as is that practical? Yeah, we would have people alive if that was the case. You want to go look up like Angelo Quinto, for example, right? Perfect example. Who's having an anxiety attack and the police murdered him because they didn't know how to handle it because they're fucking retarded when it comes to mental health. That was the actual argument. White liberals took it and was just like, get rid of police? No Black people said that. No one said that. Right? These are white liberal policies that are doing this. That we did not ask for. We asked for the end of qualified immunity. Both sides said fuck off. Right? So there we go. And like I said, the right doesn't have a counteroffer. Whenever the right goes like, well, why don't you vote for us? I'll go, all right, what's your Black plan? What's your plan to help Black people? And they'll immediately shift to this all-American shit. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this all-American shit. What do you have for Black people? Because you only bring that shit up when it's Black people. Because when it came, like, for example, Virginia and Glenn Youngkin, he had no problem making an anti-Semitism task force. So don't give me this, we need to focus on this all-American shit. You don't believe that. The right doesn't believe that. Because that shit only shows up whenever Black people ask for something. Because if Jews ask for it, they get it. If Asians ask for it, they get it.
And so
these woke leftists, They're the same kind of people that were pro-slavery. They're the same kind of people that just want the status quo, and they're hiding behind the revolutionary ideas. But it's not the case.
Yeah.
There's a story I like to cite where a teacher asked his students, "How many of you would have opposed slavery in the time of the American Civil War?" And all the kids raised their hand. He's like, "Oh, okay. So tell me something that you'll publicly admit to supporting that's deeply unpopular and incites anger and hatred." And they don't have anything to say. The point was that most of these kids were just doing whatever they thought would get them to fit in. Yeah. And when you look at, I remember reading about Frederick Douglass, and he challenged Americans to live by the standard of their own constitution, the words that they wrote and swear allegiance to. Will they uphold that all men are created equal, that these rights exist for everybody?
Yes, and MLK also called out America for that, and then they fucked him over, and they fucked us over. And then when he said, "Hold up, we done got fucked over. We gonna come for that check you didn't make good on," then he had to go. And we all know what happened next.
And then a bunch of people got pissed off at him. A bunch of white racists. Those are the people who are like, "Don't you screw with what I got."
That sounds exactly, he just describes like white conservatives right now. I'm not saying white liberals don't do this, but he just described white conservatives. Whenever black people ask for any kind of change. Literally described them.
The left thinks that they're revolutionaries, but they're supporting the corporations, they're supporting the FBI, they're supporting the government and its policies and its machine.
Because the right would never back the government, except everybody who says back the fucking blue.
And they're demonizing. I'll give you an example. Antifa is the perfect example of this. This is who I think of. Overwhelmingly white. They know it. They love wearing masks because they don't want anyone to realize it. And I watched white Antifa scream at a black ICE officer the N-word. And I've personally witnessed white Antifa screaming the N-word at a black Proud Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have seen white conservatives I have seen white conservatives all over the place calling black people who dissent from a right-wing narrative these same fucking words. And like I said, we'll go into the MAGA rapper because that's what happened to him. They're no different. They're exactly the same. Both sides hate you.
I'm like, all of those Antifa, they're all white, every single one of them. And then over here on the Proud Boy side is like Mexican guy, and there's like a Filipino guy, and there's a couple black guys, and there's a bunch of white guys. And I'm like, isn't that so strange? That's the case. There are people who believe in individual liberties, and there are people who believe in just do as the mob says or else.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% right. And like that's like we depict that in our film. We talk about people like Saul Alinsky. We talk about who the real kind of founder of Black Lives Matter is. It is a white Marxist. Like people look at these, three black women and think like, oh, they started this organization because of Trayvon Martin and because of their being fed up with the police brutality that the police are constantly kind of dashing out against, black, black and, individuals who can't protect themselves, when in reality, like, no, that's not the case at all.
I don't know why that was very hard for him to say.
It is a white man who subscribes to Marxist ideology who is training these people by his own admission. He says,
"Hey, Chad, who signs your check? I'm curious. All the shit you're spewing. I wonder who signs your checks. Who do you work for? Because you got the dude you work for sitting right next to you." So this sounds like a pot calling the kettle bitch right now.
That I go after women, Black and Latino women. I train them to be revolutionaries. I train them to start organizations. Like we depict that in this film. And so one of the things that we set out to do in making Uncle Tom 2 is we didn't want to, in a sense, regurgitate the same old conservative talking points. We wanted to go deeper.
I highly doubt that.
To show people where this ideology is based out of. And so this film, in my opinion, is superior to Uncle Tom 2, is in the sense that we take people deeper to see like where all this comes from, so as to not be constantly intimidated by whatever social justice movement comes along in a given era.
So you're trying to tell me when Joe Biden said you're not black if you don't vote for him, that he was wrong?
Well, I think one of the things I'm most proud about part 2 and the work that we've done is just really like getting to the core of America, like what made America. What made America was our worldview, you know, our Christian ethic, and you know, being a moral people, you know.
Because if we know America's history, it's totally being a moral people, right? And they'll do that thing where it's like, well, we haven't lived up to it all the time, but we're there, and then you still have shit that's been happening for hundreds of years still happening. And they'll say, but we're there now, just like they said 100 fucking years ago.
And if you look at the history of Marxism in this country, the number one goal was to demoralize us as a people. And if you just take Black America just as a microcosm of America, if you look at the footage that we show you in this film, Black America was a very prosperous, very entrepreneurial spirit, very moral people, very church going, very nuclear family, like all the.
Are we not a moral people now? I think you just fucked up right there. I think you just snitched on yourself, bro. I haven't seen this part of the interview. I think you just snitched on yourself, bro. Are we not a moral, virtuous Christian people now that is family oriented? That shit did not change. So you kind of just snitched on yourself, white supremacist. Good job. Because that shit never changed. And we were building wealth, but I guarantee you they don't want to talk about how the wealth got destroyed. It wasn't a bunch of fucking Marxists. Okay? A lot of it was coming from, again, the federal government. Right? Okay, like, we'll talk about things like, again, the crack epidemic. Where did the crack come from? You know what I'm saying? Or they'll say, you know, like the Black Wall Streets that are gone. You want to talk about urban development? Or not even going into things like the gun laws, right? Where you'll be incarcerated, and then they'll chuck you out on the street where you have enemies with fucking no money and nothing. And then if you take part in your God-given right to self-defense, then they'll go, oh, no, that's felony possession, 20 years, 25 years, or on probation, felony possession of a firearm. Hey, Goofy, did I say that shit? When did I say that? Don't put words in my mouth.
Those things were happening for Black America in the early 1900s. And when what the Marxists were able to do was slowly demoralize Black America, and now we're seeing the effect of America at large, is just to take our.
So Marxist, his whole position is niggas are stupid. The basic, like I said, basic conservative thing, when they can't figure out what's going on in Black America, they always default to niggas are stupid. Bruh, there were Republican administrations destroying Black communities. Right? It wasn't just leftists. Right? You had Democrats and Republicans. Again, like I said, I'll bring up the example of Tulsa and urban development with Nixon. What the fuck are you talking about?
Our morals away from us and create chaos, you know. And with the Christian worldview that America was built on, you had order. You know, there was a foundation. There was a foundation in God, and that created a set of rules, a way to do things, a way to do life. And that has been the goal and the tactic to destroy our country, is to slowly chip away at those morals and those values. And so I think, in my opinion, what we've put together in Uncle Tom 2 really showcases how this happened like no other film. And I think that, you know, what we're getting from people that are watching it and writing us is that it really equips them, it arms them with the knowledge that they really couldn't articulate themselves.
Yeah.
It gives them the ability to understand what they knew, but they couldn't articulate.
Yeah.
And I think that we've labored over this film for the past 2 years to, because explaining Marxism is hard to do.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do, to explain these ideas. The first film was much easier to put together because conservatism is pretty easy to explain. But Marxism is rooted in deception, so it's hard to untangle that for people.
Right on.
And I feel people are expressing that Uncle Tom 2 is giving them that confidence to talk about these issues.
Yeah, in a nutshell, like the way that I would explain it is like what Marxists understood, Tim, is that to the extent that they wanted to inject their ideology into the American society, they were having a very hard time doing it because the culture that existed in America was very antithetical to the communist worldview. And so the fact of the matter is that culture, like how does cultures persist? Cultures persist generationally through children. You instill and impart your culture to your children, and then they carry it on into the future. And so what the Marxists resolved to do is that if we can get into the
that is actually true, but it's weird how it's true when it's Marxism, but when we say it's true in regards to like slavery and Jim Crow and certain cultural things that was instilled due to your parents, like I said, the best techniques are passed down by the survivors. And when you have to learn and survive in a country like that, your parents are going to teach your kids that, and then they're going to teach their kids that, and they're going to teach their kids that. That's what Joy DeGruy argues, post-traumatic slave syndrome and generational trauma. And yes, did he say it's stupid? Yeah, he did. Saying we're too dumb to see through that? See through Marxist brainwashing? Yeah, that is saying we're dumb. No one's brainwashed by that shit. White liberals are not exactly they're not exactly smart or sneaky.
Culture of the children. If we can, in a sense, cause them to rebel against the adult generation, to reject the culture of the adult generation, we can, in a sense, inject our culture and our society and our worldview into the youth to where the trajectory of our country is completely different.
Yeah, the white liberals have already been trying to inject their culture into black communities with much failure, with all this like transing the kids shit and this alphabet nonsense. Yeah, they've been trying. It hasn't been working. But yeah, it's not just the white conservative. The white liberal has been trying to inject that white culture nonsense in the black communities. And luckily, it's been mostly rejected. But yeah, coonery is not exactly a good cultural injection either. Self-hatred is also not a good cultural injection either.
And so when you look at second wave feminism in the 60s, when you look at the hippie movement in the 60s, when you look at the free love movement in the 60s, when you look at the civil rights movement, when you look at the black militant movement, all of these are rebellious to the adult generation of the 60s. And what they were able to do was to demoralize a culture to where they are rejecting the adult generation and are adopting this kind of new worldview to the extent to where today more young people under the age of 30 are embracing socialism than any other youth generation before in this country. That goes to show that what Yuri Bezmenov talks about, who was a defected who defected from the KGB, it goes to show that what he talked about actually played out the way that he described it. And so, yes, this is something that has taken place in our country. Uncle Tom 2 describes it in a very palatable way, in a sense, in a way that no other film that I've seen have been able to break it down.
Thanks for checking out this segment.
But then, of course, out of curiosity, I was like, okay, you know what? Let's go, because I only watched the first half of that. And I was like, okay, let me go fucking look up Chad Jackson and get a feel for this dude, right? And of course, his Twitter is nothing but samboing. It's nothing but sambo talk and tap dancing, the most generic cookie cutter pawn of white conservatives I have ever seen. Right? Here, I have it here. Ah, here we go. There it is. The same dude saying that is also saying goofy shit like this. Millionaire rapper Tip Harrison's son, who loves hood culture, was arrested and is prison bound. In a live, Tip said, "I did all I can do as a father." In reality, his music counteracts any respectable parental influence. I guess culture is not systemic racism. Matters after all. See, there we go. He's doing that old Sambo thing. It's their culture. The music that is funded by white people, that is directed at white youth. And see, it's funny how whenever black ignorants are doing ignorant shit, that's representative of us. But if I point out, like transing the kids is white culture and that's white shit, I get called racist. But that's funny. That depends. How much do you know about black communities? Because something tells me you don't know that much. Okay, where is the other thing? What did I write down? Oh, fuck. I lost what I wrote down. Oh, the school fights. The school fights and the... Oh, I gotta find it. I gotta find that one. And the MAGA rapper. I gotta find that one. But I might do that in a different stream. I think I'll do that in a different stream. Because I still have to find it. Fuck, I have the first video. I can't find the second video. So then I guess I'm going to cut it short. And try to do another one of these tomorrow. I'll try. If I have time to squeeze it all in. So anyway, everyone, be cool, stay safe, don't get shot. You know how to do. You know how it works.